Coach, you walk into a situation with a lot of turnover, a lot of moving parts. Is this maybe easier for a new coach, or do you prefer to have a bunch of guys that have played together and you can just teach them the new system as opposed to getting everybody on the same page kind of at the same time?
Yes, sir. Continuity is obviously super important, whether it's on a staff or within a team. So I feel like any organization, the more continuity you have, the more experience you have, the more common language you're on. So for me, being the only new coach coming in on defense, I was a lot like a lot of our roster on defense, right? So there was probably some continuity with me and all the new guys. We were all probably learning at the same rate, I feel like. So, but with that being said, the defensive staff that was here was no different. They had done one thing a year ago, and we were changing things up simply if it's a word or a term or anything like that, it's new. So I don't think it was negative, but to answer your question, continuity is obviously helpful. Yeah.
Coach Satterfield up there just spoke about how they're going to try and get, especially on the defensive line, get guys rest, keep everyone fresh. As someone who's making those calls, and there's undoubtedly a big drop-off in talent when you go from a Dante Corleone to someone else, how do you get the middle kind of more even from the bottom of the guys who would be playing to the guys at the top like a Dante?
Sure. Well, as we know, repetition's still the mother of all learning, right? And being good at the fundamentals that are required to perform the task are super important. So through the spring, we played a number of guys at more than one position, not just at defensive line, not just at linebacker, all the way through the defense. So hopefully the experience our guys gained there with helmets and shoulder pads and all those things on carried into the summer. Even though you're not doing things with helmets and shoulder pads, you're still trying to replicate as much as you can, for lack of a better term, real life football. So hopefully that has helped us prepare for where we are today, but hopefully that will prepare us for week 8 and 9 and on down the road as well. And hopefully that has also prepared us for the fourth quarter. So I think playing a lot of guys is something we would like to do. We're a long way from knowing that today to August 31st naturally, but hopefully that can start to come together for us.
Coach Satterfield also spoke a lot about discipline and making sure, there aren't the penalties, tackles are being finished. With a bunch of new guys on defense, how do you make sure that discipline is a part of this defensive culture?
Sure. Well, I think it's a part of everything that you're doing. So showing up to the building on time, performing the workout in the weight room the way it needs to be done, doing your academics the right way and on time, and all of those things to me lead into discipline, how you take care of your body, your nutrition. So there's a lot of things that we do that hopefully develop a disciplined routine, which develops mental toughness, which you hope your guys have. So to me, it's everything that you're doing throughout the day.
Kind of going off Marshall's original question, Coach Satterfield told us you guys lost defensive end Micah Coleman for the season. What have you seen from Marquez Parker, Rob Jackson, and Eric Phillips that you believe that they would step up in that role and produce?
Sure. Well, all of our guys, the guys you just mentioned, have had really good summers. The guys that are returning, Eric and Rob, had a better summer this summer than a year ago. I don't know that. I wasn't here, but I talked to a lot of people, obviously, so I've gathered that information. So that's encouraging. Both of those guys went through spring football, which is encouraging. Marquez has developed in his short time here physically, and that's really a great starting point. But as we know, there's a lot of mental that goes into what we're doing. So hopefully Marquez can continue to develop. We've got other guys there too that we're going to ask to help us out as well, that also were here through the spring and we feel like progressed as well.
Linebacker, you brought in Bartlett from West Virginia, and then Dingle and Thompson were here, and Simeon Coleman looked great during the spring. And then suddenly I hear about this kid from Central Arkansas that I didn't know much about, but apparently Gold Days turned some heads.
He's a big, strong kid for sure. He's smart, and usually that correlates into helping a football team out on a Saturday. So hopefully that trend continues. The other guys you mentioned did have really productive springs. We've got to naturally keep everybody healthy in that group, and we're going to need to play more than 3 or 4 guys at that position in order to be healthy at the end of it. So I feel like just watching film throughout the course of last season, Jack Dingle gets to the end of the season and is a shell of himself. So we need to continue to build our depth there. It's a super physical position, as we know, a violent position. So we're going to need as many guys as we can get there.
Justin and Chad.
There's a lot of success running the ball in this conference last season. Obviously really familiar with the 3 safety look. Have you considered like adapting odd fronts or 3 high safeties with teams seeming to kind of maybe go back to the run game a little bit more?
I think every game plan starts with how are you going to stop the run, at least minimize the run, you hope, slow people down. And I think, as you mentioned, most people in this conference are going to try to figure out a way to run the ball first, naturally. So that's a part that we're always trying to do. The one thing, all 11 defenders need to have the ability to come off of a block and make a tackle for you in the run game. So we've worked on that a lot. Hopefully we can come up with some ways that can slow some people down, and we'll see what we can do.
In the spring, you ran like a pod system that never really put the 1s and 2s like all completely together. I think in the spring, Satterfield talked about taking that into the camp. How long do you think you're going to continue that experiment before you actually getting to specific 1s and 2s?
Sure. Really, in fall camp, you've got a couple scrimmages that you have set up that you're building toward. And I think typically those scrimmages allow you to make some moves between 1s and 2s, 2s and 3s, etc. So, we'll be a few days in here before we actually are able to put full pads on and determine in that scrimmage how we would potentially move things. The one thing that I know, and I feel like our defensive players know, is it's going to take every guy we have to have a chance to play representative defense every week. So even though we are, as you mentioned, structured a little bit differently with our depth right now, to me that won't change a ton once you get started. So the value of it is hopefully to even reps out in the end of fall camp, so you have a fair evaluation process, especially like you already mentioned, we've got a number of new guys, and there was only 15 practices that we were able to do in the spring. So I believe we'll continue to work on that.
Did you get what you want out of that pod system through the spring?
We absolutely did, yes. I mean, the number of guys, as far as reps being dispersed evenly with our healthy bodies, we absolutely did. I think we're able to also determine maybe what certain guys needed through this off season and through some of our player-led practices that we had. And I think that helped us that way as well, as far as evaluating specific needs.
Going off of Justin's question, do you sense that the 4 new teams coming to Big 12, you played 2 of them this season, do you sense that they're going to keep that identity of teams being really successful at running the ball in the Big 12?
Well, I think by that point we'll know on those 2 opponents once we get there. But I certainly feel like just simply fundamental football and the foundation of what most programs are built on is that. Now, obviously, you've got to be healthy and figure out, each school naturally has to figure out who their playmakers are, how they're getting the ball to those individuals, and what positions they're in. So that broadly changes people naturally, but I think generally we would say people would like to run the football if they can.
Neil and Dan.
Coach, talk about the secondary there a little bit and what you've seen from them. Obviously a complete rebuild from last season. What have you seen from those newcomers there at that secondaries position?
Well, certainly, like you mentioned, a lot of new faces there. And we've got guys in varying degrees. Some guys with, this is their last year of college football, which to me always means a lot. When a guy's on his last year of college football, it's much different than a guy in his first year of college football. So we've got a hungry, competitive group. That collectively they've got an outstanding work ethic. So I feel like we have a chance that way. and naturally we need to stay healthy.
With Dante on the road to recovery, what did Jalen Hunt show you in the spring and summer?
Jalen has gotten better each day since I've been here personally, mentally and physically both. He's an outstanding human. He's worked really hard. He leads others, which has been a lot of fun with him and Dante, really having different leadership styles, but both effective. So that's been a lot of fun. Now, you would say his leadership role has probably increased with Dante's injury. So he's done a great job with that. Jalen has. He is a guy that knows more than one position, which is certainly going to help us, and we know we're going to need Jalen.
To piggyback off Neil's question, in the secondary is a lot of new faces, but is there anybody new or old kind of taking the leadership role pretty serious lately?
Yes, we've had a collective effort there among that group. One name that was here a year ago, Jordan Young. He had a very positive spring, recovered through the offseason, was healthy, and it has worked very hard. So one guy there from a year ago. Some new guys that, to me, emerged in the spring. Derek Canteen did a great job. He's durable, he's smart, he works really hard, he has leadership qualities, and has done that through this summertime as well, bringing guys together. And I don't want to really leave anybody out, to be honest, because I really like that group. They have worked really hard mentally and physically both. And obviously we added some true high school freshmen to that group in January as well that you all know about. And we're getting guys back healthy from some injuries that they had during the spring yet too. So collectively, I think we're all trying to figure out where each guy is best, what situation each guy is best in, and probably overall what their best abilities are.
Coach Satterfield said you guys have a plan this upcoming fall camp for the new technology and the tablets and how you're going to integrate it. How do you kind of look at that? Do you have a plan in place for how your coaches are going to use it, how the players are going to use it, and do you think it's more of an advantage for the offense, or does it give the defense an edge?
Well, I stepped in at the right time because I heard Coach Satterfield say that he felt like it was an advantage for the offense, and I would 100% agree with him on that statement. When you're able to speak to the quarterback, and you know exactly how much time you have, and you're controlling the tempo and the pace, that would say you do have an advantage on the offensive side. Defensively, we experimented a little bit with it in the spring. Not quite sure exactly then how to use it. And I feel like a little bit the same standing here today, that we're going to need to experiment with it through fall camp. There's, a lot of things that you're going to have to continue to do defensively that you've always done. And I think talking with a lot of guys and people I'm close with and what their plans are really align with what I was thinking. We're just trying to figure out what's best and how many different forms of communication you're going to need to have. So that's one of them. We'll use it. How much it'll really provide an advantage for the defense, I think, is ambiguous right now.
Any more questions? Thank you, Coach.
Yep, thanks.